This is the Untold Italy travel podcast, and you're listening to episode number 102.
Ciao a tutti and benvenuti to Untold Italy, the travel podcast where you go to the towns and villages, mountains and lakes, hills and coastlines of Bella Italia. Each week, your host, Katie Clark, takes you on a journey in search of magical landscapes, history, culture, wine, gelato, and, of course, a whole lot of pasta. If you're dreaming of Italy and planning future adventures there, you've come to the right place.
Ciao, hi everyone. Are you starting to feel a little bit festive? If not, jump onto Instagram for a little bit of Italian Christmas scrolling. If you follow the hashtag Natale, which means Christmas in Italian, it's spelt Natale, you can see some of the most beautiful light installations around Italy, including illuminations on Florence's Ponte Vecchio. Italian cities do these so well, and combined with some cute Christmas markets, it is a very special time to be in Italy and also to watch from afar. Even the smallest towns and villages adorn their piazzas with lights and Christmas trees. And so with that in mind, I thought we'd go and visit Capri, where the magic of Christmas springs to life, and it's a gorgeous time of year on the island that tourist visitors rarely experience. Joining me today is my beautiful friend Holly from Capri Michelangelo Cooking School and Experiences, who is going to share the many reasons why you should visit this most famous of summertime island resorts during Christmas and the off-season. Holly lives on the island with her family, and you may remember her from episode number 42, where you can hear how she ended up being there. It's quite a romantic story. But I can't wait for you to hear all about what you can do on the island around Christmas time and give you some inspiration for Christmases yet to come. So let's get started. Bentornata, Holly. Ciao, and welcome back to the Untold Italy podcast.
Ciao, Katie. I'm so happy that I'm here. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's so great to hear your voice. And how is everything in beautiful Capri today? Is the sea as still as blue as can be?
I would love to say it is. However, it is off-season, which is something we're going to be talking about today. And it was a little rainy today. However, tomorrow we've got forecast sunny days, and we are so looking forward to getting out and about as we normally do.
Oh, perfect. You know, I doubt that you can really have a really bad day on your beautiful island. But now, Holly, the episode that you recorded with me last year is one of our most popular ever because everyone loves Capri.
So it wasn't because of me?
Ah, yes, of course it was. Don't be silly. I think it's a combination of magical Holly and magical Capri.
I understand Capri just sells. It doesn't need me.
Oh, so I think it's number 42. But in case some of our listeners missed it, can you tell them how you, a feisty Australian woman, came to be living in Capri?
Well, okay, so as I mentioned in the last episode, it's a very long story, but let's just put it down very briefly. I was traveling alone on a solo 6-week trip around Italy. I had no itinerary. I somehow found my way to Capri. And actually the place that I was staying at, Hotel Luna, recommended that I dine at Ristorante Michelangelo. And little did I know that this dinner was going to change my life. When I walked in, I was greeted by my now husband, Gianluca, who was the owner of the restaurant. And when we smiled at each other, there was a strange energy. I don't know, I guess they say love at first sight. Although as the evening progressed, we realized that we couldn't speak each other's language. And by the end of the evening, we somehow got communicating through Google Translate, and one thing led to another. And within a year, we were married, and now we have 2 children, and we now run Michelangelo. We actually closed our restaurant, or Gianluca's restaurant, that I came into by marriage in 2020 at the end of our lease, our 12-year lease. And then we're continuing to operate our cooking classes and degustation dinners and villa catering and picnics, etc., from our garden villa in Capri. So that's in a very, very, very short version of how we met and what we do now.
It is the very short version, and you sort of glossed over all the sparks and romantic bits. So if everyone wants to listen to that, then they can go on over to episode number 42, which you will really love if you like a nice story, because it is a truly magical story. Okay, so what I invited you onto the show for today, Holly, is because I think we get a lot of impression that Capri is like, it's got this short season, it's like May to October, and then that's it. Everything's over and there's nothing to see here in Capri. So what I wanted to share with everyone is what I've learned over the last year or so chatting with you, because I've learned so much about how, visiting a place that's not in the typical season that people would visit can yield so many magical experiences. And so what I'd like you to start off with is to explain what it's like in Capri at Christmas time.
Well, Christmas time for us is actually magical. Firstly, the lights. I know you often hear about people talking about Sorrento and all the beautiful lights and the Christmas displays they put on there. And people overlook Capri. And I think it's very much because of maybe the barrier of the sea or getting across in the ferry or, being worried about getting back. And I'll talk about that a little later. But the lights here blow my mind. They're so beautiful. It makes it look like a winter wonderland, like a fairyland. The piazzas draped in all beautiful, sparkly, dangly lights. This year we have a light installation by a famous Tuscan artist on the clock tower. We've got the beautiful Christmas tree that stands tall in the piazza. And, via Roma and all through the little cobblestone laneways, you have the lights hanging over and baubles, etc. It really is a beautiful vibe, a Christmas vibe. And, in the next couple of, I think, days even, the Christmas markets will start, and there are different Christmas market locations in Anna Capri and Capri, filled with beautiful arts and crafts made by artisans on the island. It's also such a big community vibe. For example, of course, in the summer season, the locals are working. We're working long hours. Hospitality obviously is the main industry that residents are employed in on the island. And for that reason, our days and hours are very long. And we understand this because the bulk of tourists travel to the island during the official summer season, which is generally the week before Easter until the last week of October. And I'm just going to say, I'm going to preface this podcast with the fact that I'm going to be talking more pre-COVID, as we're still going through some changes, obviously, and restrictions with activities and things. But I'm going to be focusing on what Christmas is like pre-COVID and what will hopefully be like next season Christmas.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like, everyone's going through a little bit of change, I think. And what I do know is that people want to get back to those traditions and those beautiful ongoing rituals that people love about their own community in Italy, and especially in Capri where you live. So can you tell us a little bit about this light installation? I think people understand lights, that things are decorated with lights, but in Italy has a really nice tradition of light installations, is where they project illuminations onto buildings. And I think it's not very well known, but it's so beautiful. And so does it have a theme, the one that you've got this year?
Yes, the theme this year is called, it's actually titled Endless Blue in English, or Blu Infinito in Italian. And it's actually been designed by a Tuscan artist called Michelangelo Bastiani. And the idea is that he's created this light installation around creating a blue-coloured waterfall that flows around the clock tower. It's quite striking. It depends your opinion, if you're a traditionalist or if you're open to contemporary types of artwork. It's obviously a contemporary artwork and light installation. And I'm excited to see that it's apparently, which hasn't yet been installed yet, but it's apparently being accompanied by a piano installation, music making installation that's going to be on the funicular terrace, which is just nearby the clock tower. So looking forward to seeing what that would be like as well. So I think what Capri, especially this year, is trying to create artworks of interest that are both obviously an attraction for travelers to come and see, but also something that all generations of Capri can connect with. So from the perspective of the younger generation in Capri, they're liking to connect with the younger generation through digital, because obviously these days the younger generation are more interacting with the digital forms. So I think it's a great initiative. And I mean, I personally, I think it's definitely a spectacle. I think it's something to come and look at. It's very nice. I like it.
Oh, it's so true. This is what I love about Italy. They're taking all the traditional elements. So you've got these really strong sense of tradition, and then we're layering over little modern elements too. It's beautiful. I love it. How lovely.
Yeah, each year they do something a little different. And, last year there was a light installation of Christmas images that were projected both onto the church as well as onto the clock tower. And this year's a little bit more contemporary. So I'm all for mixing it up and creating something new and another reason for people to get excited about coming to see our island in the off-season.
You can come every year, see what's going to happen. I love it. And tell us about these markets. I want to know a little bit more about that, because I think as well, like, we just don't hear enough about Italian Christmas markets. You hear all about these ones in Germany and Austria, and for some reason, I don't know why, but we don't hear about the market. So what is it actually like, and what sort of crafts do they sell there?
All sorts of little things, from handmade little Capri dolls to cushions to Christmas decorations to woodworks, all sorts of arts and crafty things. It's really beautiful to look at. Me personally, I'm very enthused when I see artisans doing their thing and people supporting them, because obviously it's these arts and crafts that keep traditions going. And, they've been working on these crafts for their, generations in Capri. And I think it's a beautiful thing to see them, live on and be supported. So for me, I love it. I go and I always support whichever little stores I can. And the kids love it because they will go and obviously pick their favorite little things. And I feel like, you're not only supporting the community, you're supporting an artisan and their craft.
Yeah, I mean, they've spent lifetime perfecting what they do, and I think that's very special when we're kind of used to things being kind of instantaneous. So someone's taken the time to really work on something beautiful, it can be really appreciated.
No, I agree. I think things that are, handmade and that are made with love, they go a long way from the commercial processes that a lot of industrialization that we came to know of, many of the products that have come to the forefront of our eye when we're looking at the TV for commercialism, etc. So I think a little bit of homemade and handmade touch is always beautiful, and I don't think you can ever lose that.
And so their markets, are they on every day, or are they on just on certain days?
They generally, what they'll do is for the Christmas markets, they'll set normally like maybe a 7 to 10 day time frame this is for the Caprese markets. Also for the Anna Capri markets, they'll do the same. Look, of course, subject to the weather, they'll be there every morning until, maybe after aperitivo time.
So do they start in the first week of December and then go through to Christmas? Or
as far as I know, this year maybe it'll start next week, and it'll run till mid-December.
Every day? Yeah,
every day. So they set up really cute wooden cabins on the funicular terrace, and then you can go and just have a little walk around. There's usually around 10, 14 different little cabins set up with different arts and crafts. And, they might have different activities on different days. There might be a bit of music one day, etc. Or like, Santa Claus is visiting, or Babbo Natale, of course.
Babbo Natale.
And, all sorts of different little activities. They might be making some artisan foods or having a taste of different local delicacy one day, etc.
This sounds good. So for everyone that hasn't been to Capri or they don't know, when you get to the island, you normally arrive in Marina Grande, and then you take the funicular up to the top of the hill or the cliff or the mountain, and then you find Capri town, and that's exactly where this market is, and it's the most pretty little piazza. In fact, it's called the Piazzetta, right?
Exactly. The living room of the world.
It's pretty nice, everyone. And I think, if you go in summer, that place is really crowded. Like, you can't really move. It's so crowded for visitors. But I can imagine it's got a totally different atmosphere in winter.
It does indeed. In fact, there are actually 4, right in the Piazzetta, there are 4 different bars. We've got Bar Tiberio, Bar Caso, Piccolo Bar, and Grand Cafe. And obviously in the summer, all of these are open and the cane chairs are all facing out into the piazza, so that it's very much about people watching. And you don't know who you might be sitting next to. It might be, a billionaire or a royal or a famous celebrity of some sort. Or it might just be Holly and Gianluca and the kids.
I would like that very much.
No, it's all about being glam, getting dressed up, people watching, experiencing the Piazzetta, which has been such a famous central point of the island, a meeting point of the island for, over 150 years. So it's something that's very It's an experience. Obviously, I mean, I think I definitely glossed on this on the last episode, that yes, it's expensive, but also it's all about the experience. You know, it's no different than in like Venice and St. Mark's Square, etc. Like if you're having your aperitivo in the piazza, it's more than just having your Aperol Spritz in the piazza. It's the experience. So it's beautiful. In winter, it's quite different. Of course, nearing Christmas, things change a little. However, after the end of the season, basically end of October, the bars will slowly close and they might have a break. So this year and in the past, say 5 years, Grand Cafe will close, and that will close right through until the next summer. And in that area where the Grand Cafe usually is, they will have a stage set up. And they will set up a stage, and this stage will then be the focus point for all the cultural events that will come in the weeks leading up to Christmas. So, you know, on some nights there might be different musical events. On other nights there might be a presentation. On the night of the light ceremony, the Christmas light ceremony, obviously pre-COVID, it was a huge event, and we would fill the piazza. All the residents would fill the piazza, and we had a big countdown, and, you know, the mayor and the Tarantella band, so that's the local folk band, they will be on stage, they'll be singing, dancing, and the lights will come on after the countdown, and it's beautiful. I mean, that year in 2019, we had a little bit of fake snow dropping on us, and like it really like makes the experience amazing, especially for the children. It brings the community together, and it, you know, for me, that's something I can't wait to see again. I know, not dwelling on COVID, but last year we were in red zone, so we weren't able to obviously have a ceremony nor leave our house in that. To go further, to say that even from Capri, we couldn't even go to Capri. So we didn't have the same experience last year, and it's one thing I miss, and I really hope, because also if you remember, in the summer season, we're all working. So in the off season, it's a chance for the community to really get together and bring back the sense of the island, you know, of being a real community. Sorry, a long way about answering that question is, yes, the Piazzetta is a little bit different in the winter. So what happens is Grand Cafe will be closed, and at the moment, Bartaberry and Barcazo are closed, and just Piccolo Bar is open. However, during the lead up to Christmas, more bars will open. And again, in between Christmas and New Year, again pre-COVID, the 3 bars in the piazza will all be open. The stage will be set at the Grand Cafe area. And again, the Piazzetta is full. There's a big New Year's Eve concert. You know, it's a very beautiful place to bring in the new year. I will say that. It's like it's very festive, and I think it's a special place to start your New Year resolutions.
Oh, yeah. And is there fireworks there too for the New Year?
Yeah, there is a news. There is. So generally the Piazza, they will have a concert starting from around 10 p.m. This is on New Year's Eve, and it will go right through until 5 a.m. So it's quite the event, and generally the bars will set up, and if you can reserve a table and, you know, order your champagne, etc., and basically just enjoy the festivities.
Oh, it sounds beautiful. And so are there any special foods and drinks that you have around at this time of year in Capri?
Well, firstly, I would say that we definitely here eat seasonally. So obviously you would know anyway, we have our own vegetable garden here. So we eat, of course, a lot of, at this time, you know, there's pumpkin, friarelli, which is spinach type dishes, and lentils and salsiccia, different things like this. Of course, in the lead up to Christmas, there's some special Christmas goodies. So we have, you know, I guess all around in Italy, everyone celebrates the panettone. That's already hit the shelves here, and Gianluca already purchased his first artisan panettone from Milano on the weekend. He loves a good panettone. And then we, of course, truthfully, different sorts of little fried goodies, torrone, all sorts of different delicious desserts. But I'm not so much a dessert eater, so I can't elaborate too much on that. Although I will say that, you know, Christmas Eve is a very special dinner. It's seafood focused, completely seafood focused. So we'll have an insalata di mare, which is a mixed seafood, cold seafood salad, which is quite elaborate and celebrating basically the island's abundance of beautiful seafood. We're an island, so obviously the main cuisine is seafood or the vegetables we grow, so vegetarian or seafood. And we then move on to obviously a spaghetti with alla vongole, fried bacala with lemon, or we have pesce fritto, frittura di pesce. We have all different types of seafood focused dishes, and it's a beautiful evening. It goes all evening. And when I tell you that it may about 3 o'clock in the morning after you're playing Napolitano card games, you might have your second helping of spaghetti alla vongole.
So if our listeners don't know spaghetti alla vongole, it's spaghetti with clam. It's really delicious. Somehow these clams have got a sweetness to them, so it goes really nicely with the pasta. It's a little bit salty, and it's very simple, but it's very delicious. And it's probably exactly what you want to be eating at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'd suggest.
Yes. And also, of course, we have a whole range of the southern Italy and along the Amalfi Coast and Capri, where have a lot of nuts. So often we'll have walnuts and chestnuts, and everyone's cracking them themselves and everything. It just feels so festive. And so, obviously food here is such a crucial and integral part of traditions and celebrations. And for us, it's no different, especially Gianluca's family are for generations Caprese. I clearly am not. I'm very Australian, but I embrace the traditions as if they're my own. Obviously, we have 2 children as well, and I try to give them a nice balance of a bit of Australiana. They're obviously entrenched here, but I also like to, don't worry, they're on the phone to my mum and dad in Australia, and they're Zias and Zios, their aunties and uncles in Australia too on Christmas. So they're just feeling a very different temperature. That's all I'm going to say. It's quite cold here, whereas in Australia, it's always a beautiful hot Christmas.
Yeah. So how cold does it get in Capri at Christmas time?
Well, right now, for example, today it was 7 degrees, but it's unusually cold. To be honest, it doesn't often go below 0 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, sorry. I will say that, interestingly enough, talking about low season in general, from the commencement of the tourism in a different sort of tourism, the first tourists, I guess, in Capri, so say from 1828, I think it was 1828 when the Blue Grotto was rediscovered by August Kopic. This brought a new wave of tourism to the island, and interest from intellectuals and all sorts of people that were doing the grand tour of Europe. And actually, many of those people came and settled on the island, so artists, poets, writers, etc., and they settled on the island because, in fact, they found the Mediterranean autumn and winter climate, quite mild. So it's interesting now that Capri is such a summer tourist resort, when actually the evolution of tourism in Capri resulted from people who were attracted to the island for its milder climate in the autumn and winter, because they believed at that stage that summer was too hot. And it was these artists and these intellectuals that were actually inspired to stay on the island. And, some of them built and purchased or moved here for long periods of time because they felt a different creativity, a different energy from the island in these low season months. And again, I think it's just interesting to talk about, because there is, Capri is beautiful year round. It's just a matter of what you get out of it, or what you want out of the island, your experience on the island. So, if you're coming to write a book, for example, or if you're coming to be inspired by the colors of the island are so different in every season. Naturally, of course, there's different flowers bloom. As different winds blow through, you get a different color of the skies, different times when you'll get pink sunsets as opposed to orange sunsets, as, opposed to the very summer hazy winds that you can sometimes see, where you can't see, for example, from Marina Piccola behind the Farioni. Whereas in a clear winter or clear autumn day, you can see directly through to the mainland behind the Farioni. So what I'm trying to say is, in each season brings its own colors, its own smells, its own aromas. It's everything. It's something. There's something unique and beautiful about each season. So it's just a matter about what you're looking for to take out of the island, and what you're looking for your experience, and what you're coming here for. So that's more, when you're talking about low season, I think it's very much a consideration you must have before you visit, is what are you visiting for? Are you coming for crowds? Are you coming for a vibe? Are you coming for, if you're coming obviously for beach clubs, well, I'll say no.
Well, it might be a little bit chilly in the water, although I'm sure there are still people that swim. There always seem to be those people that love a swim, even in winter. I'm not one of them, but yeah.
Well, I will say that only, it must have been, I think it was November 20th was the last beautiful, warm day here. And that's obviously quite late for it was hot. It was actually hot that day. And Marina Piccola there was everyone swimming. Everyone was down at the beach, and also at the Faro, which is the lighthouse in Capri, people were swimming there. People will take the opportunity if the weather's beautiful. And, when we get a Scirocco wind that comes from Africa, it brings warm weather, and it can happen like at any time of the year. So, that can also cause people to run down to the beach.
But I imagine as well, there's so many beautiful trails and hikes on the island as well. Like, frankly, I mean, I personally get overheated, so I like to hike when the air's a bit more crisp, and I can enjoy it more. So it's probably a good time of year to go hiking and exploring the trails.
Absolutely. That's probably one of the main draw cards of coming to Capri in the autumn and the winter seasons is the hiking. Now, I'm obviously going to preface that with, of course, if it's raining, no. Obviously, I also, sometimes I feel so personally upset when people come to the island and it's raining and I feel like they didn't get the experience, et cetera. But I then have to think to myself and go, look, wherever you live in the world, there's rainy days, and we do just have to accept them and then try to make the most of the day. But yeah, so hiking, if it's not raining, of course, hiking, there are so many beautiful tracks. And of course, when it's crystal clear, beautiful winter or autumn day, there's nothing better than packing a picnic lunch or getting ourselves, Michelangelo, to pack one for you and heading off on one of these trails. And, in Capri, you can head up to Monte Solaro on the chairlift, which opens year round, again, subject to the weather. At the moment, the last ride is at 4, I think, but it may go to 3 in January, I think. But yeah, you can go up to the top of the mountain and look over the whole of the island. And then, of course, walk down to, if you don't want to catch the chairlift back, you could walk down and go to the Citrella Valley. We have the views all over the island again and across down the Amalfi Coast. It's spectacular. And then continue your whole way down to Capri Central. And on the way, you'll no doubt pass some of the wild goats on the island, which is beautiful. And, that's just one walk. I mean, of course, there's the Sentieri de Fortini, which is the fort walk, which is basically from just near the Blue Grotto all the way along the coastline, Caprese coastline, to the lighthouse. And then, of course, in Capri, another kettle of fish, there's so many beautiful hikes there. The Pizza Longa is my favorite on the eastern coast line of pretty much between the Via Trigara to the Arco Naturale. And then you can do a loop back round to the Piazzetta. Or, you can walk up and, of course, see the archaeological ruins of, Emperor Tiberius's most famous villa on the island, Villa Jovis, which is the very top of Tiberio. And on the way back down, you can go via Villa Lisis and visit the beautiful villa that Jack Spurson set up there. So, there's so many beautiful walks. Most of the museums are also open during the winter season, albeit with, obviously lessen hours of operation. This season, I know, I just saw it today, actually, the Villa Lisis is closing for a little bit longer. But generally, I will say this, the best resource for if you're going to visit Capri in the low season is to go to www.capritourism.com. Now, on this website, it's both in Italian and English. They post a monthly updated list of, 1, museums open, and they put in there the hours of operation and the prices. And they have restaurants open as well as accommodation open. Because it's the only real source that's updated on a monthly basis, it's the best place to go to find out what's open. And, of course, then when you go to that site and you access those separate web pages, you can then find the contact numbers for the direct, either museum, restaurant, or accommodation, contact them direct.
That's the official page, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, from the tourism department. So I think when everyone's listening, because it's really hard to find the official pages sometimes because maybe the skills may not lie in managing Google so much. Sometimes it's really hard to find official sites in Italy. But thank you, Holly, for sharing that one with that, because this is where you can find the up-to-date information, because they do have a vested interest in keeping it up to date. There are some more commercial sites that are usually run by expats that live on the island, which, they're fine. But this is the official one from the tourism office, and they'll have the most up-to-date information because the other sites will probably drag their information from here anyway.
Also, look, I remember from when we had the restaurant, they would contact and say, look, we need to know your updated hours of operation, et cetera, et cetera. So we would always submit the most up-to-date information. it's in our interest also for us for people to be able to find us to know that we were open.
Yeah.
So no, I very much highly recommend going to that website for the most up-to-date list.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really good to know that there are so many things open, even if it is truncated hours. I mean, so who's going to be out, 24/7 anyway? What are you going to be doing? This is how I'm envisaging my wintertime in Capri is, maybe get up for a breakfast, a coffee and, go for a hike, maybe grab some lunch, maybe a picnic. I've got to say, everyone, this is my number one on my wish list of things to do when I get there. Because I've known Holly now for it's about 18 months now, and all I can think about is his picnic with his views for miles. Even though I'm a little bit sick of picnics now after all our lockdowns is pretty much all we can do, but I will make an exception for a picnic on Capri. It's in the Wonder Woman movies, so that's all that needs to be said, really.
And of course, our produce. This Gianluca actually, obviously we make a whole range of different cold ensaladas, pasta salad. Of course, there's a torta caprese involved, but we do make all of our produce from what we're growing in the garden. So, you always have fresh basil, fresh tomatoes in the summer season. In the winter season, you might have some spinach thrown in and we've got cauliflower, fennel. We've still got the last of our eggplants still coming along okay. We've got some peppers and lettuces, cabbages. Oh, my gosh, I'm forgetting right now off the top of my head. But, yes, we have a lot still in the garden that we make all our seasonal produce with. So not only are you getting a spectacular view with your picnic, you're also getting delicious food. And, of course, our wine.
Stop it. It's just like my idea of heaven, really. Like, I think there's nothing better to be outdoors in nature and just taking in the sea breezes. I mean, if you're a sea person, this is definitely the thing you've got to do. Take in these breezes, check out the views. Oh, it's spectacular. Unbelievable. Can't wait to get back.
No, it's very relaxing and very, very, I would say, yes, if you're looking for that creativity or that energy I was talking about before, why you come here to be inspired, well, you can definitely be inspired by nature. Which, again, bring it back to why people came here in the first place after the discovery of the Blue Grotto. It was the main reason, nature and history, because after, people started discovering all the Roman ruins on the island, obviously this is where the Roman Empire was run by Emperor Tiberius for the last 10 years of his life. And these days now they've discovered it's been noted that there is apparently 12 Roman villas on the island that he built over his time. And so there's so much history here. And that's, obviously why the very first of those people who were coming on the grand tour that were intrigued by the Blue Grotto, the next thing they were doing was they were, being transported up the mountain to look at the archaeological ruins of Iliobis. I think if you get back to basics, what made Capri what it is today, the nature and the history. And I think it's important to think about that when you're thinking about what you want to get out of the island and, why. What is the difference between summer and winter? Yes, you can still see these things in summer, but why is it that the 20,000 plus people visit per day in July and August? I would like to speculate that maybe it's more to go to the beach.
Yeah, maybe. And I mean, let's face it, the Romans kind of knew what they were doing. Like they didn't choose the lesser known places to set up. They were very discerning. They knew exactly where to go. And
all the villas are cliffside, best water views on the island. So yeah, no, they're all in the most spectacular locations. So the island is rich in history and culture and tradition, and its natural beauty is so difficult to even describe until you see it yourself. When you see epic limestone cliffs falling from meters and meters high to the depths of the sea. And, this is the reason why you get these crystal blues and greens and the colors of the water, and with the flora and the fauna. And it's so inspiring. For example, for me, I must admit, I'm a bit of an outdoorsy person myself. I very rarely will spend a full day inside. I'm going to say that today was an exception because it was really wet. But guess what? Like it is anywhere else in the world, the kids went to school. Gianluca did me a favor today and he picked them up and dropped them off. But, life goes on when it's raining or not. But, if it's not raining, of course, we're out and about, and I feel like I'm so fortunate to live here because in every season I will turn around and look at a different corner and I just go, wow, it's magical. There's always something that amazes me. And so for me, I say I'm very lucky and I'm very, happy to be here and sharing our island with not only for example, all you listeners today and you, Katie, but obviously also the opportunity to have my children, be raised in such a unique environment. I think it's beautiful.
Absolutely. Now, just getting to this point, because, what do you do if it rains, if you're visiting? Like, that's a good point, because let's face it, it does happen. And if it didn't happen, then there wouldn't be rain to, water the earth so you can have your beautiful garden with all its abundant produce.
Exactly. Okay, well, I'm going to give you some tips. Now, some of these tips will vary depending upon whether you're staying on the island or whether you're visiting for the day. Obviously, if you're staying on the island and you can see forecast rain, you've got a little bit more of an opportunity to plan things. So in that regard, if you're staying on the island and it's raining, these are some of the things I would suggest. How about taking a cooking class with us?
That's an excellent idea.
No, we run food experiences. So look, we love sharing our love of food and obviously homegrown produce. We run our cooking classes, tasting sessions, degustation, dinners, lunches, etc. And while this year, look, we created an outdoor garden, but we're also in the process of making them able to be enjoyed during times when it's wet or windy, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll be up and running for that next season. So don't you worry. What else could you do? You could indulge in a long lunch or dinner at a local restaurant. Now, as we said before, I didn't actually mention, I was talking about the Capri tourism website that has the list of restaurants open. Yes, it is significantly less than the amount of restaurants that are open in the summer season. To give you an example I'll probably say that in the summer season, there's around 130 to 40 restaurants open. There are only 14,000 of us, so there is no way that 140 restaurants could survive with the residents alone. And, of course, that's not going to be sustainable. So in the winter season, yes, many restaurants close. However, that does not mean that there are not restaurants open. There are. They're ones that cater to the locals and, we have our favorites, et cetera. Everyone does. Everyone has, whatever they like to do when they go out. But in saying that, you can always find a restaurant where you can indulge and just take in a local experience, You won't, for example, in the summer season, you're likely to be sitting at a restaurant and next door to you might be someone that may have grown up in the suburb next to you back in your own country. Whereas in winter, I can assure you, you're most likely going to be hearing a lot of Italian. But it's also beautiful. I remember when I first came to Capri, when I ate in Gianluca's restaurant, and this night in particular, he had a very Italian clientele. And I was just sitting there. I was dining alone and I just loved watching the scenes. I like observing. And it was beautiful to see, how expressive Italians are when they're talking about food and amongst their friends or family. And anyway, I suggest it's a nice thing to do. Find your local Anna Caprese or Capri restaurant that you want to dine in and have a long lunch or dinner. Embrace it. Next, I would say, and this is both for day or if you're staying on the island, day trippers or if you're staying on the island, find those indoor museums and churches that you would like to visit. So there are some museums that are more climatized to be visited during sunny days. And then there are others that are okay for indoors. So, for example, the church in the square is beautiful, Santo Stefano, where Gianluca and I were married, which actually also has a bit of the marble along the altar that came from Villa Jovis. It's interesting enough. So the Roman ruins up there, and you can see that on the altar at the Church San Stefano in the Piazzetta. Also, one of the most beautiful churches on the island is located in Anna Capri called Chiesa di San Michele, and this has the most amazing ceramic depiction of Adam and Eve that you should definitely go and see. That's open year-round as well, and it's obviously indoor. There are other museums you might think about for indoor would be Casa Rossa, a very interesting, intriguing museum. It was actually the home of one of the very first Americans that settled on the island, and his name was John McCowan. Interestingly enough, he collected a number of artifacts and archaeological items from around the island and afar, and he put these in his home. Very interestingly enough, and very few people know, that actually this museum houses 5 of the statues, the Roman statues that were found on the seabed of the Blue Grotto. Very interesting because they're housed in this museum. They were extracted in 1964, and now they've just only this season, they've actually put an interactive light show. So talking back to the interactive light show, they've put a light show. It's surrounding the statues, and it's actually the light show. I find it very intriguing because it's part of it is actually spoken as if you're feeling that the statues are speaking to you. It's very interesting, and it's something I would, if you're into the history of the island, and it's a beautiful thing to go and see. That's what I see from like a cultural perspective. I would also say, look, if you're here for a couple of days, why not lap up some beauty in one of the salons? There are, of course, us locals, we do like to get our hair done and get massages and your nails done, etc. There are a number of places that are open year round, and you can have a day of luxury. And one place off the top of my head is the Gatto Bianco Spa in Capri. I think I don't know, in the low season generally, they're just closed on Saturdays, Sundays and public holidays, but they're open all other days. So you can go and get your hair done or enjoy in a bit of, indulgence. So that's something else I would do.
Do they have any special local treatments that they do on Capri?
No, we're not Ischia. Ischia has amazing, amazing treatments, and I would definitely, that's something we do actually in our low season. Sometimes if we can get off the island, we might go over there for a little bit of a treat because they have the thermal springs and they do all sorts of types of treatments. But I mean, here they offer, quite a lot of different beauty treatments, but they're very much those that can be found on the mainland, etc.
So we did mention you did sneak in the Blue Grotto there. So I'm asking you, is the Blue Grotto actually open?
Well, it is open, but only on calm days. Again, that capritourism.com website has a link to actually contact them to find out if it's open. In the low season, generally, I think from 10 till 2. And again, the weather must be completely calm. And you'll generally have to contact them before to know if the Blue Grotto little gozzos, little boats that take you in, the traditional rowboats, are actually operating on that day. Look, the tours, the larger tours that go around the island, again, subject to the weather condition, the sea conditions, they run year round. Yes, they definitely do, but they don't take you inside the Blue Grotto. They will take you past the Blue Grotto, but not in. So if you're looking to go into the Blue Grotto, you'll definitely have to contact before.
Going around the island, I mean, seriously, I can't stop saying this. It's like one of the highlights of my life, just sitting on the boat and going around the island because it is so beautiful. It honestly is one of the highlights of my life. I cannot sort of say it enough, really. So, I mean, even if that's the plan for the day, I mean, damn, that's a pretty good plan, I would say. It's couldn't think of anything better.
I will say in low season it's a little bit more difficult, but you need to wait for those perfect, beautiful days. They're not so rare. It's just more that, you have to take advantage of those days when you can. I can assure you, everyone in Capri is outdoors when it's a beautiful, sunny winter day.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So now, clearly, contrary to popular belief, everything is not closed, which sounds amazing. But if we wanted to go there, where would we stay?
Before I move on, I just wanted to run through just the last couple of things for what to do if it rains, only because if I forget, I won't get back to it. If you're intrigued in Capri history and you're just wanting to lounge around, again, if you're staying on the island, read a book or go to La Conchiglia, the local bookstore, which is filled with amazing books and intriguing books on Capri history, and they have a whole lot in English as well. You could spend half a day. I go in there for like an hour or two. I'm just looking out and don't know what to buy next. I think I've got half the bookstore in my house. But I just love learning more and more things about Capri's history because there are so many elements to it. So many different nationalities came here from around the world and all put their mark on the island. So, if you're into, for example, Russian history, you'll read a lot about that on Capri, as well as, German, English, American, lots of different history. So I love reading up. Next thing, if you're into movies, albeit in Italian, head to Cinema Paradiso in Anna Capri. They're open year round and they have a whole range of Italian movies. What about going to, again, if you're on the island for a little while, if you're into yoga or Pilates, etc., or even one of the local gyms, you can either get somebody to come and do a yoga class with you or you can go to the gym and join one. And in the winter season, like I said, in the lead up to Christmas, there are lots of pop-up activities. So, again, pre-COVID, there were so many different things that used to pop up, whether they be like, live music, random in either a different bar or in the piazza, or if there was, the chess club set up and you could join the competition, or if you wanted to go to the pop-up tea room. There was always something going on, and there is, generally there'll be a calendar of events that launch at the start of the month that you can also find on either capritourism.com or on different Facebook groups that we're on. And I guess the last but not least thing is, in the worst case scenario, if you're stuck in Capri when it's raining, there is the bars in the piazza. They don't have much inside area, but Piccolo Bar, which generally is open year round, they have an upstairs area. And, you can either, if you're there in the morning and it's raining, you can sit on a cappuccino or a cafe or a cornetto or any of the beautiful pastries they make there. Or in the afternoon, it's never too early for an Aperol Spritz or a nice glass of winter warming red wine. So they are my tips for what's to do when it's raining. I'm sorry to cut you off before. But where do you stay? That's the next question.
Where do you stay? Absolutely. Yeah, they are amazing tips. I'm starting to wonder why anyone would go in summer, really. I mean, some people just are not summer people. So if you're really into more of a cooler environment, but, obviously not freezing cold like in the mountains, then I don't see why you wouldn't venture across to Capri. But, yeah, I think it's true. Where should you stay? Because obviously, some of the hotels are probably not operating and you probably have a limited choices. But, Holly, you've got all the good tips. So where would we stay?
Look, I would say that, yes, definitely hotel-wise, most of the hotels, again, will shut down at the end of October. So in respect of hotels that will stay open in the low season, some might not extend the whole way through the low season. Some might just go till January 6th or just after the New Year's Eve celebrations, or others might go till just the start of December. This year, for example, there is one hotel that stays open all year round. It's called Quattro Stagioni. It's a one-star hotel, but it's beautiful and quaint and it's got a great view. It's quite central near Giurigolfi, which is like the roundabout which takes you to all parts of the island. And then there's, a number of different other hotels. La Reginella is one, which is a lovely, affordable hotel that's on the way to the Arco Naturale. So you're a bit more in the neighbourhood region, Matamania of Capri, which is lovely too. This year, I think Gatto Bianco, which is actually quite next to the Piazza, is open. It's a 4-star hotel, and that's open until January 6th. But again, every year they change the opening, so it's always good to check in with that Capri tourism website. Look, hotels are limited. However, there are so many beautiful little B&Bs, Airbnbs, where you'll get a different experience because you'll also be interacting much more with locals because you see locals around. Because in our low season, obviously, as many of us work in the hospitality industry, our daily life resumes to routines such as taking the kids to school, going shopping, we all go for an aperitivo, some things that we very rarely get to enjoy in the summer season. So if you're staying in a B&B or an Airbnb, you're more likely to have more interaction with your hosts or whoever's running it than you would in the summer season. And, it's lovely because you get their insider tips and to know more about the people. If you want to interact, if you don't have to interact, of course you don't have to, but you get a different, more local community feel. So B&Bs, in Anna Capri, I know many, many that are open, some with beautiful views. I have a friend up in Il Tramonto B&B. She has the most spectacular view of the sunset, and she's open year round, including, the Christmas and New Year period. And look, Airbnb is the same. I'm going to say, like, if it were me, I was wanting to take a big group of friends and all my family, I would love to put people into or recommend a beautiful villa. So, we work a lot with villa owners and we do a lot of catering in villas, and we go to the villas that people rent and do cooking classes, provide dinners, catered for dinners, tasting sessions, etc. And, at this time you can get these amazing villas that, you might be outpriced in the summer season for a more affordable price where you really feel like you're living a luxury experience in the winter, If it's raining outside, you don't need to go anywhere. Cuddle up on the couch with a good book next to the fireplace with someone preparing your meals. I couldn't ask for anything else as you're looking out to a sea view. And for me, in Australia, I must say, when people say to me, I wouldn't travel there in winter, it's cold. I'm like, but I did so much in my travels. Like, we go to the Blue Mountains or go to different little remote country areas for little breaks, getaways from the city. I don't know, when I hear people go, oh no, I'd never go to Capri in the winter, I go, oh my gosh, it's a perfect little getaway. In my mentality and from the way I used to travel to do little trips in Australia, I know the big barrier is getting over here. The ferries run year round. Okay, they run year round from Naples and Sorrento. The Amalfi coastline will not be running in the low season. Neither will any of the ferries direct to the other islands. So Ischia, Capri, etc. is not running. However, the Naples and Sorrento line are running. In Naples, there are two different ports. There is the port Beverolo, where you catch the high-speed ferries, which are the ones you're most likely to catch when you're coming to Capri in the summer season. However, obviously in the low season, these are the ones that are least likely to run in the event of any sort of rough sea. Then there is another port called Calata de Massa. Now, this port is where the car ferries go. So they're much bigger And they're more likely to run when, obviously when there's a little bit of high sea or rain, etc. However, in both of those instances, there are times when no ferries will come at all. Look, it's rare. However, it happens. And, it's obviously for safety reasons. So if the boats aren't going, then, you can't do anything about it other than remain flexible with your plans and persevere and come the next day when it's safe to do so to hop on a ferry. So the ferries from Naples, they will take, the hydrofoil takes 50 minutes. The car ferry can take 1 hour to 1.5 hours. So it's a slower ferry. So if, for example, you weren't so great with seafaring in terms of if you get a little bit of seasickness, etc., it might be better for you to approach the island from Sorrento because it's a shorter ride. So they have also the hydrofoils and car ferries, and they're 20 minutes or 30 minutes. So it's a shorter trip. And obviously wait for the time. If you have the flexibility to travel, wait for the time when the sea is right for you. Obviously, like if it's a bit of a rough day, don't risk it because, obviously if you arrive, especially if it's only for a day trip, you don't want to be feeling unwell when you arrive because it'll affect your whole experience on the day. So if you can reschedule, reschedule. But look, that is probably the biggest deterrent. Again, I'm going to preface this with also this can happen in the summer season too. Again, rare that boats won't go. So it's not as it's only attracted to winter temperatures, etc. But in saying that, also, if you're going to be staying on the island while the temperatures could affect the ferry timetables, I always recommend, if you're going to have a stay on the island, never have your departure time or date on the same day as you have an international or other flight. So always schedule it so you've got a little bit of time, either head back to Sorrento, head back to Naples, spend a couple of days there. So you've got a bit of a buffer in the event that there was some bad weather and the ferries weren't running. So that's my advice on ferries. I have an app. I use 3B Meteo, and I look always as the wind kilometer speeds because I'm always trying to plan our off-island trips too. So don't worry, we live by the temperature. I told you.
Oh my gosh.
So I watch everything, and of course, sometimes you have to call directly to the ferry companies in the morning just to check that they're going and if there's going to be any changes or what they foresee for the day. But, I guess for us, it's very different because it's a part of our normal daily life is dealing with potential transport problems.
That's part of traveling. It's part of life. Nothing is ever going to go perfectly ever, and I think it's how you respond to that and how you, adapt. And my approach is if you have a little few backup plans in your pocket, like a plan B, plan C and plan D, like you're going to have an amazing time, like there's nothing more delightful than sitting over a long coffee and a cornetto or an aperitivo. Just, I like storms myself,
Taking in life in another city, in another culture, in another, atmosphere. It's beautiful.
Yeah, for sure.
Watching the day go by. It's all about taking it in. I think if anything, COVID taught us was that, or our family was, to slow down in times when you can slow down, take it all in.
Piano.
I call that the theme of the island. We're an island time here, okay? So piano means slowly, and everyone will tell you if you're running somewhere, they're like, piano, relax, slowly, don't worry. We're an island time.
Oh, now, Holly, did you have anything else you wanted to tell everyone what it's like in Christmas in winter in Capri?
Some other things I'd say, okay, look, sunset and sunrises are something that's more than magical. I know I spoke briefly about the nature, but I'm going to talk also about the timing. The reason being is because, in summer it's very difficult for us to get up at 5 a.m. to see a sunset. Well, for me anyway, I'm working. And then also in the evening, we're generally working as well. So for me, I find the shorter days here, it's magical. You get up at 7:30 and you can watch the most magical sunrise. And then in the evening at 4:30, and of course, obviously, the sun is setting in a different location. So normally you'd have to go to Capri to watch the sunset from the lighthouse. But now you can actually walk to the end of Via Chagara. Literally on the left-hand side of you or beside you have the Farioni, the epic Farioni. And then straight ahead of you, you're watching the sun set into the sea. I mean, I probably one of the most amazing things I enjoy about winter is the sunsets and sunrises. Not only because they're so picturesque, but more so because they're in a time frame that I can manage.
I'm the same. It's so true. It's so true. Who wants to be getting up earlier when you're on vacation?
I know. Anyway, I would say maybe on a final note, just a couple of other Christmassy type things. I'd say something that's beautiful is the Zampognari. It's a lovely tradition here where bagpipe type instruments the tradition's been passed down from father to son for, the generations. Generally, farmers or shepherds, the story goes back to, the origins come from the Campania, so from the countryside regions of Campania, and they would come into the cities around Christmas. So generally between the 29th of November and the 7th December, and then again you'll see them in Capri from the 16th to the 24th, and they play through the streets, and it's so nice. It just heralds in Christmas. When you hear the bagpipes, you feel, okay, now it's the season. And you will find them walking around all over the island. They'll even stop in at houses. They'll stop in at Nonna's house, and the kids love it, and they'll have a dance. But, they'll be in the piazza, or they'll be just traveling around the streets. So it's a lovely tradition that I love seeing. And, for us, we'll always give a little in exchange for, a song for exchange for a little bit of a cash donation. And, they're just beautiful. I think it's a very beautiful tradition. So that's something I like to look forward to, just heralds in Christmas. And also, again, just before Christmas and over the Christmas to New Year period is when more restaurants, shops and nightclubs will reopen just for that period. So whilst they might not be open in November or after January 6th, they will reopen just for like a 1 week, 10-day period, as there's quite a lot of things happening. So we, generally there's a Capri Hollywood Film Festival, which might find some, Italian actors and actresses on the island come and visit during this time. And they have a lot of, schedule of free film screenings, etc. And then they also have, obviously I spoke about before, the New Year's Eve and the piazza, the fireworks. And so, it's quite a beautiful Christmas celebratory festive vibe. So that's why I think 1 or 2 of the nightclubs will reopen, another 5 or 6 restaurants will reopen, and then, all the piazza bars, like I said, different shops will reopen. Look, I'm going to preface this also with that, no, the boutiques of, the Via Camarelli, other than I think the local Capri watch, will be open, but generally the boutiques along there are only open for the summer season. So yes, they will be boarded up. I know people get a little shocked at that, but, as with the hotels, as with the bulk of the restaurants, as with, a lot of the resort-style tourist-centric activities on the island, they will not be open during the low season. Another thing is, look, you'll find like beautiful artisan shops open. I have a lovely friend, Antonio Palombo, who does beautiful artworks in his little gallery, and he's always open between Christmas and New Year, and you can often find him at the front of his gallery in Capri painting away. So, it's a different time. It's a time to really explore the local side of the island. So maybe I'll finish it off with this. Low season visits. Okay, December, a great time. November is, it is a transition period, because October, the end of October, a lot of the residents have worked a really long season and they're closing their businesses. You have a little bit of a different vibe. It's a transitionary vibe. But towards the end of November, everything's hyping up and getting ready towards this great festive community, Christmas spirit and festive vibe. And then after January 6th, things go very quiet. So if I was to say to you maybe what months I would recommend to come in low season, I would definitely say the November, December and the mid-January. When it gets to around mid-January to February, what does happen at this time on the island is there's a lot of work going on. So, for example, all the businesses, this was the same as us when we had the restaurant. We would refurb, we start to plan for the next summer season because, depending on when Easter is, you're opening again in March, because you generally open the week or two before Easter, or we did before when we had the restaurant. So in February, there's a lot of works going on and it's very quiet. So you're more likely to have more closed services on the island, and also sometimes a little bit of not so sightly construction work or a bit of noise. So I'd probably recommend not visiting. Again, depending on what you want to do. If you want to take my idea and get a villa and lounge out and, stay away from the Piazzetta or different things, and you just want to have your own experience in nature, go for it. But I would say that the weather and the type of works that go on the island at that time may be a deterrent for some. So if I was to pick and choose my low season months, when would I come? I would say November, December.
Yeah. Let's face it, that's a Christmas time, and Christmas is special. And that's why, I wanted you to share that. You get the bagpipes, you get the food, you get the lights, all of the above.
And the last thing, and my favorite of all, is only because I guess my children are also part of the Tarantella band, Bella Capri. And I love, this is a tradition that's been going back, hundreds and hundreds of years of them dancing, the traditional local dance here, the Tarantella. And they have 4 or 5 different groups all over the island. you generally have an affiliation, your family, like, when you're born, you know which group you're going to dance with. And on New Year's New Year's Day is this concert where they have all the different tarantella bands, and they are in the Piazzetta and they dance one after another, and it goes for like 5 hours, and I love it. It's so colourful. It's so spirited. They're, dancing, singing. I mean, imagine, hearing O Sole Mio and all the dances and the tambourines, and it's something, I just think it's so enjoyable. And they will then do that in the Piazzetta in Capri, and then they'll go to Anna Capri and do it. So you always have a band going in either one of the Piazzettas. So I really enjoy it. It's a beautiful evening.
Oh.
After those days, they'll have a couple more concerts in the square, but after that, then slowly things wind down a little into the January, February.
Well, that sounds absolutely charming. It really does. And, the whole Christmas time sounds magical. And if you're the type of person that wants to experience things in a little bit of a slower way, piano, without the crowds, and, it doesn't bother you if you don't have that beach experience, then it sounds like it's an absolutely stunning time of the year to visit, and a very intimate experience too than most visitors in summer would have.
I definitely would encourage also, if you're coming during this period, I just know from my experience, not all locals may be able to speak perfect English. You may well need your Google Translate on hand, but they definitely love trying to communicate if they can't, obviously if they can't speak English fluently. I definitely also think they're so intrigued as to what you're doing there. So they definitely want to have a conversation. They're always like, oh, wow, what are you doing here? Oh, thank you for coming. Or, because it's beautiful that people miss, like I think a lot of the residents, like I'm saying before, it was only in the last actually 20, 30 years that tourism wasn't so busy in the low season. Before that it was. So in fact, actually most of the nightclubs were open in the winter, and it was something that was a regular thing to come to Capri during the low season.
Now, Holly, I know that everyone would love to know how they can follow you and stay in touch with you and organise a beautiful picnic with you. How can they do that?
Well, you can follow along on our Instagram account at Michelangelo_Capri. And on this account, I love sharing a bit of food, daily life on the island. We do an Insta story every day. We love interacting. So you can write, and that's me who you'll be speaking to if you write me a message. We also have another account, Capri at Capri Sostenibly. In all our business activities, we have a very sustainable focus, as we would love our island to be obviously sustainable, especially in these times, uncertain times. So on that side, you can see a lot of our nature projects and our picnics we feature on there as well. And of course, you can find us on our website at www.caprimichelangelo.com, and on Facebook, we're at Michelangelo Capri. Other than that, reach out wherever you like. We've got my email address, bookings@caprimichelangelo.com. Generally, if you're writing in English, it'll be me responding. If you're writing in Italian, you'll get Gianluca.
It doesn't matter which one because you're both gorgeous. Anyway, everyone, Holly's Instagram is an absolute delight. I've been known to rewatch her stories like 5 times, and I'm not stalking you. I'm just saying the scenery is just stunning.
I also save everything in highlights. So if you want to see, if you missed one, you can go and have a look at the little titles of the highlights below and choose whichever theme you'd like to go and watch. So enjoy. You can see a little bit of our children and their life on the island.
And them doing the tarantella. Do you know what I think we'll do? We'll put we're going to put all your links and everything onto the show notes. But what we might do is we'll end this show with a little bit of tarantella. I'll find some tunes so people can hear what it sounds like.
Oh, yes, you must. I'll send you some. Like I said, I love it. And I'm sure when other people can witness it, you will often see it here in the summer season. The bands will play for weddings or birthdays or big celebratory events. And again, I think it just puts such a beautiful Capri spirit into any celebration. It just does. It's just beautiful.
Oh, well, I would love to see that at Christmas time. Grazie, Holly. Thank you for joining us again on Untold Italy today. And I hope you have a beautiful Christmas with your family. Buon Natale.
Oh, thank you so much, Katie, and to you and yours. So, Buon Natale from Capri, and to all the listeners, thank you so much.
Well, there is no doubt that Capri is beautiful all year round. What a magical place that has captured the imagination of people since Roman times, and if we're honest, probably before then too. As we think about how we can make the most of our time in Italy, we should consider visiting tourist hotspots like Capri during those times that are less busy, like Christmas and the off-season. you'll surely have a different, more intimate and definitely less crowded experience. Holly mentioned so many great ideas for spending Christmas and the off-season on Capri. And of course, we put them all into the show notes on untolditaly.com/102 for episode 102. You'll also find a link to the Capri Michelangelo Instagram page and website where you can sign up for the latest news from Holly, Gianluca, and their amazing cooking school and sustainable products, including the most delicious tomato sauce and olive oil. Well, that's the end of our show today. As always, if you've enjoyed this episode, please share it with your family and friends who love Italy and consider giving us a 5-star rating or review. Knowing that you enjoy the show is actually the best Christmas present I could wish for of all. And in the spirit of giving, we'll be back with some Italian Christmas food ideas from our friends next week. I'm going to leave you with a little tarantella music that Holly mentioned. Ciao for now.